Hello and welcome to the Historians podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Des.
And this week,
we fucked up. We really, we dropped the ball. Hang in there, baby.
We're the kitten hanging off of the branch saying, hang in there, champ.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we recorded the whole episode.
And then in post...
Weeks ago at this point.
Yeah, weeks ago. And in post, I realized we only had the last 20 minutes of the episode.
Well, we should have known that we should have stopped, honestly, because, I mean, at one point we did stop because Desi realized that there had been a filter.
The alien filter.
Yeah.
Being recorded on the whole thing.
So,
it was an off day for us, let's just say. So,
yeah.
We're back. We're here to right our wrongs.
Yeah, so it's just a little bit of a different approach, but for about 2/3 of this. But you know, we're going to
just power through
it, babes. Alrighty. End of disclaimer.
Yes.
All right, so this week's episode is going to be a little bit of a fun one. Des, I did give you a prompt. We can quick run through that.
Yes, so the prompt was to just in general research the Lindbergh case. So what that is the reason that it's so famous is because it happened to the son of Colonel Charles Lindbergh, who was a famous aviator, and he's famous because he did a nonstop flight across the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, for this case, his son, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., who was 20 months old at the time, was kidnapped on March 1st, 1932 at 9 p.m. from his nursery on the second floor while his parents were still home. So when they went, the nurse went to find him, he wasn't there. And, the parents came up and he wasn't there. And they found a ransom note that asked for $50,000.
Which would have been,
ridiculous.
Near $1 million or $500,000.
Yeah.
At that time.
A crazy amount of money. And they also found a really shittily made ladder, which will be important later.
Very important.
There were not just this one ransom note. There was multiple ransom notes. About 12, actually. So
damn.
A fuck ton of ransom notes. They really wanted to get the point across that they wanted money.
I knew that there were a lot of them, but 12, just putting that.
It seems excessive.
Yeah, it's a little bit excessive.
It's like, bitch, we know how much you want, but they kept changing.
Yeah.
So, generally they don't recommend negotiating with these people. But a representative of the family, his name was John Condon, he went and gave the $50,000 to the ransomer.
Mm-hmm.
So he met up with him and, was later asked to describe him. He gives a description, says, they just call him a John,
mm-hmm.
For the case's sake. And he gives them an envelope disclosing the location, supposedly, of being able to, where to find their child.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they didn't find him there. And instead, on May 12th, the baby's body was accidentally found.
So about 3 months after.
Yeah. And it was only about 4.5 miles away from their home, which was in East Amwell, New Jersey. And when they looked over the body, they said it was estimated to have been dead quite a while earlier from an injury in the head.
Mm-hmm.
So while they were looking for this ransomer, they had an idea. The ransom was paid mostly in gold certificates. So those are trackable.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1934... there were some gold certificates that were discovered in the vicinity of Yorkville and Harlem, and these were used to track the movements of the ransom money in hopes of finding the ransomer.
So about 2 years after.
Yes. So eventually they got a license plate because this dumbass paid a gas station attendant in a $10 gold certificate. $10 was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm going to keep track of this plate. I mean, just in case they come back, and I'll take care of them myself.
Well, and at this
for
point,
that
too,
big tip.
there was, posters and things out about, hey, look out for this. So it stuck out to the gas station attendant that this was something odd.
I guess this was a time where there wasn't a gas station on every corner and people actually like paid attention to things in the newspaper.
Yeah. So they tracked that license plate, and it comes back to a man by the name of Bruno Richard Hauptmann, who was about a 35-year-old German immigrant, and he was also a carpenter, which I find interesting because I don't pin the carpenter as being the one making a shitty ladder.
Yeah.
But that's always a stipulation. That's speculation. Some of the reasons that they confirmed that, this was their guy was that his auto was seen by the house before the kidnapping.
Mm-hmm.
He had similar handwriting to the ransom notes, and he had tools and wood that was from his attic that matched the ladder. So it would have been items that were in his possession.
Yeah.
So he was indicted for extortion and murder, and his trial lasted about 5 weeks and was based on all this circumstantial evidence. And on February 13th of 1935, the jury delivered him a verdict of guilty and sentenced him to death. So he, of course, tried to appeal this decision, but ultimately he was electrocuted on April 3rd of 1936. So that is just a general summary of the case.
Mm-hmm. I just realized that I went at the end of that. And it's because I have some biases in this case, and I'll be the first one to admit that. But so this episode, you did such a wonderful job at doing a background on that. You did that perfectly. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. The thing is that we are not diving deep into the case.
And that's cool. I figured if you're going to have me cover the majority of it, that, yeah.
Yep. And so I wanted a basic understanding of the case. I'd say you did that great. And for this episode's not going to be a deep dive, but instead it's going to be a deep dive into the man. Who was Charles Lindbergh, really? Who was the man? This is Charles Lindbergh, and leading up to this slideshow that I created, I was kind of batting around some ideas with my sister because she was home for the holidays, so we were talking about the case. She's kind of a true crime girly, and so we were talking about it, and she has her theories as well, but I showed her a picture of this man, and she went, Lucy Lou who? And I mean,
he doesn't have a 4 head. He has a 5 head.
And, they really, I'd say the prosthetic in Kill Bill was really good to exaggerate.
Right.
But it missed some marks at the same time.
Yeah.
So that 5 head be translating. So Charles Lindbergh, what's his deal all about? He was born in Detroit, Michigan on February 4th of 1902 and raised in Little Falls, Minnesota. His mother was Evangeline Lodge Lindbergh, and his father was Charles August Lindbergh I. His father was a prosecutor for Morrison County in Minnesota, and he was also elected as Minnesota's 6th Congressional District Representative in 1906. He served from March 1907 to March of 1917. So Charles Lindbergh, the famous man, because there's a lot of Charles Lindberghs.
It doesn't narrow it down, yeah.
No, it doesn't. And it's, So he attended a litany of prestigious schools in California, Minnesota, and Washington, D.C. because his father was elected to become a representative. So they kind of split their time in between Minnesota and D.C. He attended the Sidwell Friends School, which was a Quaker prep school in Bethesda, Massachusetts. And then he also attended UW-Madison in late 1920, but he did drop out his sophomore year. He had a lot of interests in mechanics and transportation from an early age that led to a fascination in aviation.
Okay.
He enrolled in flying school in Lincoln, Nebraska through the Nebraska Aircraft Corporation. So the world was not at war during this time, so they had no need for like more active pilots in the service. So he kind of went into the reserves essentially. So after school, he became a barnstormer. And when I saw this term, I was like, riddle me interested. What? And so a barnstormer is a form of entertainment, or was a form of entertainment during the 1920s, where stunt pilots performed tricks individually or in groups called flying circuses. So if you've ever seen like an old movie with somebody walking on a wing of an older plane.
That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, that's what barnstorming is.
Why would you want to do that?
Lack of self-preservation.
Gosh.
Thrill seeker.
Is this what depressed people did? They're like, well, what's the worst that could happen? I die? Like...
No comment.
Like, what the hell?
So Lindbergh went by Daredevil Lindbergh during his barnstorming days. And you'll find that this is a recurring theme throughout Lindbergh's life, where he kind of just had a blatant disregard for his own safety and the safety of those around him.
Oh, great.
Yeah. But he loved himself at the same time. And I'm like, okay, you like the thrill of looking in the mirror, I guess.
Yeah.
Liz, stop letting your biases shine through, please. So he performed across Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. And as I said before, he was a wingman, so he was the guy out on the wing. Because at this time, he could not fly a plane legally.
Oh, shit.
So he was kind of getting to know the ropes. So
well, I'm not flying it, man. I'm out here on the wing.
Hey, man, I'm not putting nobody else's life in danger but my own, and
don't hate the player, hate the game.
Except it's like the player makes the game,
yeah.
So it's like So he did finally take his first solo flight in May of 1923. So he was kind of logging hours like with the barnstormers and everything, trying to get his license. In 1924, he reported to Brooks Field to begin a year-long training program in the United States Army Air Service. So at the end of this year-long training, he collided with another plane midair on March 5th, 1925, which it was 8 days right before graduation.
Please tell me he didn't pass. That he had to have injured himself.
He still graduated top overall in his class.
What? Top of the class?
He top of the class.
He shouldn't have graduated. Like you crashed that was the one thing you're not supposed to fucking do.
I feel like
crash the goddamn plane.
Yes.
Well, that should be pass fail. What the actual fuck?
Well, granted. He did start this program with 104 cadets, and he did end it with only 18.
Yeah, because he fucking crashed and killed them.
And now I'm wondering, I'm like, I tried to look into, like, what, if there were any incidences during that time, or, like, why did the numbers drop off? Like, did people just get picked off, or did they, tap out? I couldn't find it. So
if he got top of the class, how fucking bad did the rest of it do?
Thankfully, they were not in wartime.
Oh
Let's just say that. So Lindbergh earned his Army pilot's wing and commission as a second lieutenant in the Air Service Reserve Corps. He returned to being a barnstormer and flight instructor and joined the 110th Observation Squadron, the 35th Division Missouri National Guard in St. Louis. Then he was promoted to first lieutenant in December 1925 and captain in July of 1926. I don't know.
So we're moving on up.
I don't know, like, the ranking progression, or like if there are times in between. I would love to know, like, if there's certain guidelines. I'm sure that there are exceptions, or like if you have exceptional service or whatever, you can really move up quick. But also, he was not active duty. He was a barnstormer.
People must just have really liked him. They're like, yeah, this Daredevil guy. Yeah, I like him.
He goes out on the wing and
make him a captain.
Yeah.
It's only been like 7 months is fine.
I
He's
almost
put
said-
in his time.
I almost said oorah, but that would be a completely different branch.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I apologize. I acknowledge and I apologize. So, a pilot's life for he. Also, I don't know. The fact that he immediately got his license and then became a flight instructor, I feel like there needs to be extra hours in between.
Yeah. Well, I think too, when people do really extreme things, they kind of skip over those basics and they're like, well, I can stand on the plane's wings. So, like, why would I need to know how to turn?
Okay, except the thing is, with like the flight instructor stuff, it's like, okay, yes, it could come very easily to you, but you might not be able to fucking teach it.
Yeah.
And so I bring that up because you will find he is quite an arrogant man. And so I'm like, how many people did he put in danger? Because he's like, why aren't you taking this up yet? Why don't you get it? It's my first flight.
Yeah.
So he was hired by Robertson Aircraft Corporation, RAC, to lay out and serve as chief pilot for a new mail route and became a mail messenger. During his tenure as a mail messenger, he had 2 bailout incidents without serious injury. So we are at like 3 crashes.
3 crashes, but also think of all the lost mail.
Oh, poor Gertrude.
She was waiting on that postcard.
You know that she was like, I sent that postcard 2 weeks ago and I'm waiting for that response, but I put like 3 squirts of my perfume on that.
Yeah.
And that's expensive perfume.
Yeah. Gone up in flames.
Probably accelerated with that perfume.
Yeah. Very flammable.
So he left for San Diego in February 1927 to oversee the construction of the Spirit of St. Louis. So why is he famous? He's famous because during this time there was a lot of competitions, essentially, and challenges put out on doing flight records. Flight was, personal flight.
Ripley's Believe It or Not. Who could have the longest flight?
Yeah, like personal flights were relatively new. It's a relatively new, widespread technology. So they wanted to break barriers. So transatlantic flights, and I want to give a little bit of a background on that. In 1919, British aviators John Alcock and Arthur Brown won the Daily Mail Prize for the first nonstop transatlantic flight. So they started in St. John's, Newfoundland, and they flew to Clifton in County Galway, Ireland, on June 14th and 15th in 1919. So it was an overnight red-eye. First red-eye flight.
Yeah.
So after this flight, New York hotelier Raymond Ortigue was approached by the Augustus Post to put up a $25,000 reward, which in 2024 money, it was estimated to be around like $453,000. So when you said that they asked for $50,000 in the ransom,
it's like, hell,
that's nearly $1 million.
Ain't nobody got that kind of money.
Yeah. And so he posted that for the first successful transatlantic flight between New York City and Paris within 5 years. The challenge did have to be extended. Nobody
was going to try that shit.
Well, at least 6 people did, and they lost their lives while prepping to attempt the challenge.
My gosh. I forget that this is such a dangerous time in aviation.
Yeah.
I feel it's like the 20s, and then it kind of dips down a little bit, and then it's like 50s, 60s. It goes back up in dangerousness.
We're wearing pantsuits on the plane.
Yeah, and then like it dips again. It ebbs and flows.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be an interesting thing, but it doesn't interest me enough to research it. But I would like watch a documentary or read a book on the history of aviation. I'm sure there's 15,000 of them.
Truly.
I read 2 of them for this one, and one of them was written by Charles Lindbergh, and let me tell you, he does not help his case in becoming a likable person. So, Lindbergh quipped that a nonstop flight between New York and Paris would be less hazardous than flying mail for a single winter. A little bit cocky there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you would have to contend with many months of bad weather versus one fingers crossed flight.
Yeah.
But it's cocky.
It's a little, yeah. So the famous flight, he decided that he wanted to pursue this and make an attempt at it. As I said, he kind of had
no
a blatant disregard for his own self-preservation. He liked his name. He wanted his name known, and I mean, hey,
that's one way to do it.
Here we are, two bitches talking about this man in 2026.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, almost 100 years.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, I just made that realization.
He's like older or something.
He's dead. So he decided that he wanted to attempt this, and he was able to receive backing from St. Louis businessmen and aviation supporters and enthusiasts in the region. He set about assembling a team to help him custom build the Spirit of St. Louis, the plane itself. So they had to do a lot of tests and calculations, I'm imagining.
Why'd you be Irish? I don't know why you got that little Irish twinge at the end there.
A little lilt comes out when I get gassy. So he built a team around it, and they had to do a lot of tests. I mean, they had to consider every aspect when thinking about being able to make a plane to sustain such a journey.
Yeah, the altitude, the fuel, the weather being unpredictable.
Weight.
Yeah.
It had to be as light as possible to be able to carry enough fuel.
Yeah.
And the fuel, I mean, without the fuel, it's not going. So
yeah.
The fuel takes up
most of it.
So the journey began early May 20th, 1927, from Roosevelt Field on Long Island to his destination, Le Bourget Aerodrome, which was 3,610 miles away or 5,810 kilometers away.
Damn.
He did not sleep the night before. He was just doing a bunch of checks and everything. And so he was running on minimal sleep.
Great, just what you needed.
And the flight took 33 and a half hours. And he fought through icing, flew blind through fog, causing him to have to navigate only by dead reckoning.
Ooh.
The thing is that he was not great at dead reckoning. And that is like where
trusting that you're going forward.
You have to trust in your instruments, essentially. He kind of lucked out because it was a very calm night. And so like the winds were just enough to push against. And so he kind of glided through.
Yeah.
So once he got to Paris, he circled the Eiffel Tower before heading to the airfield. And that's one thing that I'm jealous about.
The bird's eye view of the Eiffel Tower.
The experience of essentially a victory lap around the Eiffel Tower.
I'd be so worried that'd be when I die. I'd be like, because you got cocky with it, you know?
I mean, this is a man who ran on cockiness.
That's true.
So, at the airfield, there were around 150,000 spectators, and they stormed the field and ripped him out of his plane and carried him around above their heads for nearly 30 minutes, according to him. There were souvenir hunters as well, and they did cause a little bit of damage to the plane. So they were the people ripping pieces off to be able to say, oh, here's a piece of the Spirit
and that
of
was
St.
very
Louis.
Common. There's a bunch of events where people took actual pieces of the
main one that makes me think about this, or that pops up in my head, is Bonnie and Clyde. I believe that they were kind of mobbed.
Yeah.
Like, it might have been a Hollywood retelling, but like, they kind of paraded the car around and people just were able to reach in and take shit. So Lindbergh stayed with the U.S. ambassador in his residence and slept for the first time in 60 hours.
Damn.
Afterwards. That would be
like a log.
Yeah, that would be the hardest sleep and probably like the best sleep ever. I remember sleeping, and this is only half of what he went, but I think going over to Ireland for our masters, I think it took me about like 28 hours or 30 hours that I did not sleep the whole time, and I hadn't slept the night before. And that first sleep, even though I was in a bed that I had no clue, I just met a bunch of people that apparently are going to be like in my life for the next year, and then I'm just like so I can only imagine 60. So after this, he was thrust into the cultural zeitgeist. Zeitgeist is my word right now. I keep on using it. People probably are like, she got a word a day calendar and just stuck on the first day that was zeitgeist. he began a European and American press tour after the flight. It was his first time in Europe as well. So he was like seeing the sights and also seeing the sights, being a tourist, but all of the locals are flooding towards you.
Right, because they recognize him from the papers and they're like, whoa, you're the guy.
Yep, you're Charles Lindbergh.
Yeah.
You're the famous aviator. So it was unprecedented fame. And immediately, overnight, followed the flight, he became an international celebrity, which means in this time period, American and European celebrity.
Very limited worldview.
Yeah. He received official invitations to visit multiple European countries, marriage proposals, invites to cities, gifts, letters, and endorsement requests. Lots of marriage proposals. Apparently, like, you would love my daughter.
Any man that reckless can get married to my daughter to have the Lindbergh name, and you'll probably die in the next 5 years.
Just buckle up. You'll see what he did. So 200 songs were written in tribute to quote-unquote Lucky Lindy. And within 2 months of the flight, he published an autobiography. It was called We, and he didn't pick the name of the autobiography. The publisher did, but everyone kind of was like, what? Because he talks very intimately about like having a spiritual connection to the plane itself.
Oh, he's like one of them guys that like marry the plane.
Well, and he was like, I wasn't trying to make it sound like it. And it's like,
kind of did though.
Then why it does.
Yeah.
Why it does. Afterwards, though, I will give him slight credit for this. Actually, full credit. But there was a Lindbergh boom. And that meant that airmail volume increased by 50% within 6 months. And applications for pilots' licenses tripled. And number of planes quadrupled.
Wow.
Because I really like the fact about the airmail. Because he advocated for it.
He was a male pilot.
And he, like, when asked, he was like, no, this is great service and everything. And he even recruited people for the airmail. So, American Golden Boy and His American Dream with Anne Morrow. I lived in a building named Morrow. And I don't want to look it up to see if it's any relation. No relation. So, Charles Lindbergh was quite self-absorbed. He himself in his autobiographies acknowledges that he never really took any interest in women throughout his youth. And it wasn't until like he got into the cultural zeitgeist and that he started, there started being some expectations of him.
Oh, yeah.
So then, with those marriage proposals and everything, he was probably like, oh, I guess the next step in my life would be getting married, I guess.
Yeah.
So he met Anne Spencer Morrow in 1927 in Mexico City, while her father, Dwight Morrow, was the United States ambassador to Mexico, and his advisors invited Lindbergh to strengthen relations between the two nations.
Yeah, because it's cool. We got this cool guy here.
It's like having a sponsor. Yeah. Being a sponsored event. Like, yeah. Well, he's hosting the event. Look at these relations. Yeah. He was initially more interested in her older sister, but she was too sickly and probably, quote unquote, too much. She also might have been a lesbian. And so I would love to learn a little bit more about her sister, Elizabeth. And because I believe she went like to a different state or upstate and opened a school with her longtime roommate. Oh. We have no room to talk. We've opened a podcast together.
I know. We don't help the rumors. Listen, guys, the life hack to life is to just live with your best friend.
Yeah, I mean,
but there will be people betting on you at Thanksgiving to be like, I bet you they gay.
I mean, we have played around with the thought of the benefits, like tax benefits and health insurance benefits of getting married. But honestly, that's just because we live in the United States and
it's a hellscape.
They'll probably outlaw even that.
Yeah.
So, rock in a hard place, people. So Anne was attending Smith College at the time, and she was smitten by the international celebrity. There's claims that when she was a young girl, she always dreamt of marrying a hero, and he was, quote unquote, America's golden hero. I think last hero is sometimes coined, but ever heard of 9/11? There were a lot of heroes that day.
It's always 9/11 with you.
Hey,
You'll never
they told
forget.
me never forget, so I don't. So their first date, he took her on a flight, and she fell in love with him and flying.
I feel like that's like such a Chad move for that, though.
I think that also it's partly because that was one of the only places that he felt like confident.
Himself comfortable.
Yeah, and comfortable, where he could be like, okay, I know what I'm fucking talking about, you know, and not being
When
like,
he can make himself seem smart. Oh, and this does
Exactly.
this, and watch if you do this, it does this. And it's like, so like, what are your plans with your 401k?
I mean,
Anyway, so this over here is the, no, let's circle back to the 401k. Like,
but also, have you ever encountered somebody so in their element? It's attractive.
this
Like,
is true.
When they are absolutely in their element, it's like, oh my gosh.
I just feel very Devil Wears Prada about it. I feel like the pilot, first date flying, you know,
Pedestrian.
yeah. Like,
So
groundbreaking.
So they got married.
Oh, shocker.
On May 27th, 1929, at her parents' Englewood, New Jersey home. She flew solo for the first time that same year and began working towards her own pilot's license and began flying with Charles as his radio operator. So she really did like fall in love with flying. The
Yeah, it was
thing
probably
is-
really amazing back then, too.
Have you ever had a friend who says one thing and then she starts dating somebody
The limerence, you mean?
and then she encompasses everything that guy likes?
That is called limerence.
Oh.
And so what that is when you're yourself and then you meet somebody else who you like and you want to emulate them.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden the things that you like to do start to become the things that also they like to do. And sometimes you don't even mean to make it happen.
I truly do think that it's subconscious sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been subconscious with her. I think she might have trauma bonded with the plane.
Yeah.
So, in 1930, Anne and Charles embarked on an attempt to set a flight record from Los Angeles to New York that April. In June, their son was born. That first flight that they took on, like that record-breaking flight,
Mm-hmm.
she was 7 months pregnant.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
So Charles had this recurring thing where it happened twice. The thing is that it happened twice. I'd have two nickels. That when Anne was pregnant, he put her in these like dangerous situations. So during that flight, they about like 3/4 of the way through, she was starting to feel sick. It was a 15-hour flight. And so for about like 3 to 5 hours of that flight, she
was not well.
my fractions are off, but it was 3 to 5 hours of that flight. She was starting to like succumb to the fumes. Her air wasn't great, and she was
Some altitude
nauseous.
sickness.
She had a horrible headache, which also when you're pregnant and you have a headache, that's not a good sign.
Well, and back then they didn't have the oxygenated cabins.
No, and so she was like, no, my job is to be his radio operator. And the main reason she said that why she stayed quiet was that she did not want to prove Charles right, that he might think that she is just a weak woman.
That's already sad that this soon in that she already knew he had thoughts on
Yeah.
her being a woman.
And even though like she's not saying it or even probably like acknowledged that she wanted to be, I don't think she wanted to be seen as an equal in flight or anything, but she wanted to show that she could like hold her own.
Right.
You know, and it's like,
She wanted to be a good
come on.
match.
I'm like able to do this. This is somebody from the sidewalk can't do this,
Right.
you know, just off the sidewalk. So she had to be carried. They carried around a rickety ladder that Charles made specifically for when Anne was pregnant to get in and out of planes.
Rickety ladders. Where is that
I know,
familiar?
it keeps on coming up. So she had to be taken straight to a hospital, and it wasn't really known if there were any lasting issues, but she was immediately put on bed rest after that, and Charles, against her mother's wishes, because she was doing bed rest like at her mother's house, against her mother's wishes, Charles would come out and be like, hey, let's do a day flight. So he would still take her on like day flights, and also like kind of expect her to go to events and stuff with him, even though.
And I can't even imagine. I imagine being pregnant is so uncomfortable.
Especially at like 6 and 7 months.
Like to have to get on a regular plane, let alone these rinky-dinky small 1920s, 30s planes.
Dude, I can barely fit in a regular plane seat. My knees are in the person in front of me's neck. And also it's like, the thing is, I think that with her, she kind of knew that she was second choice.
Yeah.
And I think that she might have lived her life as second choice compared to like her boisterous sister.
Yeah.
And so she just felt like, in a sense, like felt lucky that he chose her. But then it was also a fleeting thing where it's like he could cast me aside at the same time.
I would rather be smart and considered weak, than to be considered strong and to be dumb.
I'd always pick smart, yeah.
Yeah.
Although the shit that comes out of my mouth,
it's touch and go for both of us.
It's a fighting struggle to prove that we did earn our master's degrees. And this podcast is not helping.
Listening to this.
The way I'm presenting,
where'd they get their masters? The back of a fucking cereal box.
We sent off for them. Well, I must say that the thing with all of this research is that throughout my whole thing, this started back in October, and throughout all of this, I just kept on hearing my professor say, narrow your fucking topic. Holy shit. What are you trying to prove? And I'm like, nothing. I just need this information out of my head, please. So I'm so sorry, listener. You're being subjected to this, but I need to purge it, okay? Because I have thoughts.
Somebody has to know.
So their son Charles was born on Anne's 24th birthday, June 22nd, 1930. This, as I said, was 2 months after the record-breaking flight. Charles was not a present figure in his family home. He worked away from the home, and when he was, quote-unquote, in town, he worked in the city while they kind of set up their familial home, Highlands, right outside of Hopewell, New Jersey. But also they only really went there on the weekends.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a
retreat.
A rich person thing where it's like, oh no, that's our weekend man thing.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know why they're English. But so newspapers reported on them getting this home and also like expanding their family as the eagle makes his nest.
Aww.
And Lindbergh was referred to the eagle, and Charles August Lindbergh III was referred to as the eaglet.
Aww.
And it's really cute, actually. Even though they split most of their time between this home in Highfields, and even though they split most of their time between their Hopewell home and Inglewood, which was actually her mother's house.
Mm-hmm.
They moved into a large farmhouse, as I said before, named Highfields. It was a 425-acre plot of land, or estate, in the remote Sugarland Mountains. And since his thrusting into the zeitgeist, after that initial like press tour, he kind of became very secretive, and especially like with his family, he was very elusive of the press and tried to keep his family out of the public life. They begrudgingly released like photos of their son to the press just to keep them off of their backs. And that's part of the reason why in the case, there wasn't like a really up-to-date picture. The picture of the baby with curly hair and like curly ringlets was out of date. He had recently had a haircut.
Oh.
And so yeah, they were like but they themselves like had family and home pictures, but not a lot.
Right.
Not the same as like an affluent family of the time. So the kidnapping, March 1st, 1932. I want to lay out like kind of the lead up to the kidnapping, because Anne Morrow Lindbergh released a bunch of books. She was an author. She was a writer from a young age, but she released a lot of her journals, a lot of her diaries, a lot of letters that she wrote. What interested me, in one of them, she included a letter that she wrote the day after the kidnapping, and it essentially had an outline of like time for time, which was very interesting. So in the hours leading up to the kidnapping, essentially the family put the baby down early in the night, had dinner. Charles came home. It was also like during the week. And so Charles came home, which was odd, and he went up to wash up in the bathroom by the baby's room, then came back down, had supper, then went back upstairs, had a bath, then went down to his study. The thing is that his study was right below the nursery, and there's a window right below the nursery as well.
So you'd think you'd see something or
a
hear
rickety
something.
old ladder or something. So at 10 p.m., the empty crib was found by Betty Gow, the nanny, and she proclaimed, "Oh, Mr. Lindbergh, don't play such a trick on me again."
Again?
I will get into it.
Yeah.
Then the police arrive. Head of New Jersey State Police was Colonel H. Norman Schwarzkopf. His son is the American General H. Norman Schwarzkopf, who led the Gulf War Coalition in 1991. Little fun fact. So history is always connected. The thing is that Lindbergh also strong-armed his way into essentially taking over the investigation.
That's a little suspicious.
A little bit. He kept everything quiet and did not sustain clear and constant communications. So it was like there was a middleman, but the middleman's invisible, and it's also Charles Lindbergh. And so it's like a Slender Man at the same time. So you're primally afeared. And then sadly, the baby's body was found in the woods on the Lindbergh land, like essentially right outside of their land, or like within it.
The confines. 400 and whatever many acres.
Exactly.
You had a lot to choose from.
Exactly. A lot of people, there's a lot of accounts though that say this area was searched, but also it's like, me personally, I think that the child did probably die that night. I'll get into that. Then Charles kind of like refused to talk about the case or the child after the trial and execution of Bruno Richard Hoffman. And at this time as well, Anne was pregnant again. So
great.
So she was
in harm's way.
Yeah, so she was having to deal with the loss of her first child and then also having to deal with being pregnant on top of that. And it's just an emotional roller coaster that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy in more ways than one. So as I said before, Charles Lindbergh had a troubled past with cruelty. He was a person with a dark disregard for his fellow humans. He saw them as like, how can you benefit me? But also like in a way with what he does in the future, it's like he liked some aspects of humanity.
He liked the aspects that could benefit him.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Including these considered anyone else would consider a loved one, categorized by those who knew him as having a sadistic sense of humor and a penchant for cruelty. Here are some examples. During his barnstorming days, he would gleefully retell about cruel pranks he pulled on underlings as well as racially motivated pranks. He's the guy in modern times that will literally shoot someone and say, "It's a prank, bro! It's a fucking prank!"
He is...
Why are you laughing?
You know those HR training videos they make you watch?
Yes.
He's the bad example in it. That everyone's like, who fucking does that? This guy fucking does that.
In more ways than one, Charles Lindbergh, I would not be surprised if he is the reason we have to sit through OSHA and HR trainings.
Yep.
So, as well as the USAS training crash incident, you know, he seemed to tuck and roll from that, you know, being like, whatever.
Yeah.
When he was doing airmail, he pranked a young pilot that he actually recruited. So, like, he saw potential in him. He liked him. They were rooming together. Mm-hmm. By switching out the water in their shared room pitcher, water pitcher, in their boarding house with kerosene.
Oh.
The recruit's name was Bud Gurney, and he drank down 2 spoonfuls of the liquid before realizing the
Oh
change.
my gosh.
And this resulted in his throat sustaining severe burns.
Ugh.
He
Oh my
survived,
gosh.
but like,
That's not cool, man. That's not a fun prank.
Charles uncharacteristically regretted that he had not devised a more quote-unquote moderate prank to teach Bud a lesson for not doing his fair share of refilling the pitcher for the two of them, benefiting himself.
Like, if you're gonna fill like a water pitcher with something, make it vodka. Because
Yeah.
that's a startling surprise. That's like
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I guess it was during Prohibition, but people had tons of it around anyway.
But also, I'm like, that's a lot of kerosene to waste.
waste.
As well. But I mean, kerosene was widespread. You would know what happened to people. Like, you would, I'm sure there were like cautionary tales of children drinking kerosene.
Yeah.
Like, don't drink kerosene.
They didn't have the Mr. Yuck stickers back then.
Girl, we still have the Mr. Yuck stickers
We do
on
too.
my parents' cabinets. And I'm like, Mom, you can't put the syrup up there. That means I can't eat it.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're 30. And I go, I know. I need to file my taxes. So, also in his marriage, he quote unquote convinced his wife to go on multiple flights while pregnant and disregarded her safety each time. Also, this time during flight was not safe for like and she wasn't an amateur, that's the thing. But also, like, you put on certain like cautions. and
Like, this is not how
everything.
you would treat. If I was really loving and caring for the person, I would be like, you know what? Sit this one out. I want you to rest. I want the baby and you to be safe. Instead, he's like, bitch, aren't you coming? I got the keys.
How
Get
else?
your shoes on. What the hell?
Who else will talk on the radio?
Yeah.
I can't. I'm socially inept.
Yeah. Oh, fine. We'll stay home and be pregnant. Air quotes. Like,
Lazy.
yeah. Like, what
he's
the fuck?
the type of guy to be like, gosh, you're just sitting around. You're so lazy.
Not like you're doing anything.
I created
I'm
a liver.
7 months pregnant right now.
I grew a fucking organ today, so shut the fuck up. So, examples, LA to New York flight, there was that lack of oxygen, and also they didn't know if it hurt the baby. And again, footnote, that'll come up. There was also an incident when she was doing her gliding license. Essentially, they strapped her into a glider, and 6 men flung her off of the highest cliff. And she later in her life was the first time that she admitted just how scared she was. But again, she wouldn't want to admit that to Charles or say, I don't think this is safe. I don't think this is safe for me or the baby. Like, if you're so egotistical, this is half of you.
Yeah.
This is your progeny. Like,
Yeah, listen, I'm telling you, she likes this man too much because nobody
Yeah.
needs to put this amount of effort
She-
into it.
I think that she needed to correspond with her sister a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because her sister would have been like,
The
what? So there were also, as I said, the trips during her bed rest. So again, blatant disregard for medical professionals consulting her. Anne would later admit how apprehensive she was in the gliding incident, but yeah, she was like, I was frozen, and it was a rocky like landing, but she was the first woman to achieve getting her glider's license, and I think
That's pretty cool.
that's the thing is I'm kind of 50-50 because I think that it's even more badass in a way that she was pregnant at the time, where it was like, oh wow, but also I'm like, girl, what?
Yeah. Not worth it.
So Morals and Charles Lindbergh II are in my head like oil and water. They just don't mix. So Lindbergh marred his own name. He could have just lived out his life high and mighty as the aviator. But no, he strapped his horse to the eugenics.
Oh, come on.
So he supported eugenics throughout his whole life. Like, he was friends with the founders and also continued financial support throughout his life to, like, there was an American Society of Eugenics.
And for those of you who don't know what eugenics are, it's essentially the belief that, like, it's like when you're breeding pets and you're trying to get the pure breed.
Yeah.
It's with humans, though. So it's that certain traits are more desirable, certain bloodlines are more clean and desirable, and that you have to get this combination or else you're going to have like a tainted child, essentially, that's like no disabilities, no autism, anything of that sort. I mean, they're like the Romans. They'll fling you off the cliff, essentially.
Yeah, and it's definitely a lot of white supremacists like to support eugenics because they think that they're becoming like, oh, how dare, like they become a minority. Maybe because you've treated minorities horrid like throughout the history. Yeah, so he also had Nazi alignments. Eugenics and Nazis go hand in hand in a way as well. Eugenics have been around longer than the Nazi party, but the Nazis were like...
Yeah, they're prolific for supporting the eugenics movement.
Yes, and taking steps to try and implement
Fulfill it, yeah.
He was besties with Dr. Carroll, who was a prominent Nazi doctor / researcher and supporter of eugenics. He was given like his own lab in Italy, or one of the areas that the Nazis invaded. He was also a spokesman for America First. That movement has been around for a very long time, and they keep popping up. Yeah. And it's like,
bitch, it didn't work back then.
Didn't you learn your lesson, old man? Yeah. Literally, it's the SpongeBob meme where it's like, you keep veiling this in patriotism, and then we Scooby-Doo unmask you every 50 years and go, fuck, it's eugenics again.
Yeah.
What the hell? It's racism.
Dang.
So he also believed in preserving the white race and American isolationism. His family life, he had 6 children with Anne that he didn't seem to care much for or about, except for how much they might reflect upon him and his name. So he was notably absent throughout most of their lives. He went off on research stuff, and he did like back research for like a heart valve thing that did catch on and everything. So it's like, why is he attached to really good stuff? And that's the thing that I wanted to dissect, kind of.
Well, Hitler loved dogs.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly.
I love that example.
That's the thing, is that people put people on a pedestal way too often, and they think that they're infallible. And it's like, hey, a lot of times these heroes are put on that pedestal, then put themselves up on that pedestal, and then do wretched fucking things, and then keep that quiet because they know how shameful it is. So he stated that family planning was of utmost importance, but he never cared about whether or not his children were born healthy. He put all of that on Anne.
That's so shitty.
Yeah, and then all of the
and then meanwhile taking her up in fucking flights and shit, and it's like, you're not helping her maintain the health of your children.
No, and he's a person who was like, oh, I really like science and everything, and it's like, read a fucking book on how which also, this is the 1930s and everything. Of course, they were not doing women's health. But it's like, if you want to be pro-family, you need to be pro-women's health, okay? Because that's the only way to get your fucking quiver full, okay?
Yeah.
So, when their daughter, Reeves' child, their youngest daughter, her child passed away from a seizure during the night around the same age that Charles Lindbergh passed away, was killed. And they were actually at Anne's home when this happened, and Anne was comforting her while they waited for medical professionals to come and gather him to take to the funeral home. And she told Reeve, I never sat with my son this way. And so she was showing that she was never able to grieve out loud. She never got to see his body. Yeah. Charles refused to let her see the body. She never got closure. Yeah. And was never allowed to get closure. And like in the 50s, Anne started seeing a psychiatrist.
Good.
Charles was pissed because he could not censor her.
Right.
He didn't know exactly what she was telling the psychiatrist, and that pissed him off. And so, like, she was off and on with this psychiatrist, and also possibly an affair, which I'm like,
well,
good girl.
I mean, not a talker. When you experience somebody who is listening to you for the first time.
Exactly. But you know what? I take back that good girl. Honestly, that's a power imbalance. That's also a woman who someone's finally listening to her. So it's like, yeah.
It's all kinds of fucked up.
Yeah. So
American's last hero and the overachieving family's man. That's intentional. So with Anne, he had 6 children. Charles August Lindbergh III, he lived from 1930 to 1932. John was born in 1932, so just a couple of months after the kidnapping. So she also had to deal with all of this
while pregnant, raging hormones and tired and
stress, hormones and everything. And so it's like, and also when John was born, Anne was so excited to see her child when she woke up, because it was during that time when the mother was put under and then she woke up with a baby in her arms, essentially. She was excited to see John and everything, and she saw Charles and she was holding John. It was like, oh, look at our beautiful son, you know, a son for the one that we lost and everything. And Charles said he has a wart on his toe, and then left.
I don't know, Charles. Maybe your brand of seed is not as great as you think it is, because
it could never be up to his.
Could never be up.
No, it could never be his fault.
It has to be Anne's fault. Babies just shit just happens.
Shit just happens. There's a reason why people are just excited when they're born.
Yeah,
crying
because they're alive.
They just went through a whole ordeal. Also, it's like. It keeps on making me think of like this, I don't know who it reverts originally back to, but it's used in shows and everything, where it's like a man's battle is fought in war and on the battlefield. A woman's battle is fought in the birthing bed.
Yeah.
Because that's life and death right there.
Right.
It was 50-50, and even those are good odds.
Yeah.
Up until about 2 years ago. No. Even now, the mortality rate is appalling. So then they had a son named Land in 1937, daughter Anne in 1940, and she lived to 1993. Scott was 1942, and Reeve was 1945. Secret families! Secret families! He is wonder of a family, traditional values life. This is the main thing that has made me want
to... he definitely killed this baby. I'm sorry. I'm saying it.
So... And also, like, over the holidays, I was talking with my grandma, and my mom was like, oh, you should talk to her about the Lindbergh case, because she has some opinions. So I was talking to her, and I was telling her some of the facts that I found out. And then I was like, well, you know, he had secret families too. And she went, what? So she had no clue either. Like, this is not in the cultural zeitgeist. This man who preached about traditional family values was stepping out on his wife, who was every aspect, the trad wife that every one of these fuckers who wants a traditional family is. And he's stepping out.
Yep.
So he had families, secret children with 3 women in Germany, 2 of whom were sisters.
That's so fucked up. Yep. I mean...
So with Bridget Hessheimer, he had 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. With Marietta Hessheimer, Marionette Miller Meeks.
Yeah.
Mariette Hessheimer, he had 2 children, 2 boys. And Valeska, we don't know her last name, but she worked as his personal assistant in Germany, had a son and a daughter. These were the first 2, like the sisters, were apparently German women who apparently wanted to bear Lindbergh's children due to post-war lack of German men and leftover eugenic beliefs. But also, like, they were like, oh, you know, like, oh, such a wonderful example of genetics. And I'm like, look at this man! What?
Look at that 5 head. That ain't 4 head.
Honey, what? But he was, yes?
He was, okay, because here's the thing. It's one thing to believe in eugenics. A lot of Americans at this time were kind of holding on to that belief. There was a whole society for it. Here's the thing. It's a very specific German Nazi belief to want to procreate with as many people as possible for eugenics.
Yes. He pisses me off, okay, guys?
Yeah, what the
this
fuck?
man pisses me off. Because also, he was not in these children's lives.
No.
He would show up every now and then. Probably he only showed up to impregnate these women again.
Yeah.
And then, just fucked back off. And the children only realized who their father was, like, after his death and after they were adults.
That sucks, because that's not fair for them.
No. And so it was like, oh, that guy looks familiar, like the guy who would sometimes come over every now and then to hang out with my mom. Oh, fuck.
Oh, shit.
I, too, am tall, with a 5 head,
Yeah.
and blonde. So what? I wanted to touch upon an aspect, because everything is so all around bad. But also, this is a character analysis, but also I couldn't give a proper character analysis because I couldn't fucking narrow down my topic because more interesting information kept popping up throughout. And so I could probably do a 4-part series on this. If you want that, cool. That will be down the road. But I also wanted to ensure that certain points got across, because it's like, don't put anyone on a pedestal. Somebody could be very successful in their field, but still be a shit human being. And somebody could be really shit human being and have made advancements, and you can be like, fuck, I'm really pissed off that this shit human being made this advancement, but this advancement did lead to other advancements, and that's okay. But also, fuck this guy.
Yeah, you can
Space
hate
travel.
the player, but not necessarily the game.
Space travel.
Yeah.
Atomic bomb making, which I will say forever, fuck you.
That was a bad choice.
About making that. Yeah. I didn't watch Oppenheimer because I knew I would get pissed.
It gives Jurassic World, or not Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, where they're like, just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Yeah. And also, like, what made me want to do this topic was because the thing that kept reappearing in my head for the past, since I listened to a podcast, and I can't remember who did the podcast on the Lindbergh case. And then they brought up the secret families, and then they brought up that there are theories that Charles had a hand in it. And I was like, I don't know if he intentionally wanted his child to die, but I can see evidence that would point in the direction of thinking he might have tried to orchestrate a kidnapping so that he could pay someone off to maybe raise his child in secret or something.
Right. I think he probably would have paid to have somebody help him with this. I don't think he would have done it himself necessarily.
He'd have to have clean hands.
I think he wanted to have this scapegoat of Bruno to clear his name.
So sometimes shitty things happen to shitty people. And so it's like, you can say, oh man, that is a shitty event that happened to the Lindberghs. But I'd say put your collective humanity's grief towards Anne. And I'm not saying that she's sin-free during this, because she also backed her husband's beliefs. But also I can believe that she was under his thumb and had no influence, certain influences over certain things in her life. So sometimes shitty things happen to shitty people, but it doesn't cause them to reflect and alter their ways in said, like, face of the tragedies.
Yeah.
This tragedy happened and he still was a shitty human after.
Yeah.
And also did not practice what he preached. And, some people might be like, you keep calling him a shitty person. And I'm like, I believe that anybody who doesn't practice what they preach is shitty.
Yeah.
If you hold certain people up to a certain standard or substandard while holding yourself up on a pedestal, but you live nothing that you preach,
It's just having an inflated ego.
fuck you.
Yeah.
Lindbergh was a man with an inflated ego who disregarded his own safety, and that allowed him to be catapulted into the public zeitgeist as a cultural celebrity because he was willing to put his life on the line, and others. He was perfectly willing to put others in the line of danger as well. But at that same disregard, for people around him, even his family, suffered from this cruelty. He took over his own son's kidnapping. He didn't leave it to the professionals. And it's like, hey guys, not everyone is a fucking genius in every category.
No.
We can't have podcasters heading the FBI.
Yeah.
Okay, there are lifetime agents that could have done it better. Because guess what? They know the policies. They know the procedures. This guy is just screaming
He's
about
just money
vibes.
and an opinion. He's got
Literally.
money and an opinion.
Literally. He also put his wife into countless dangerous situations, especially, it was almost like it heightened whenever she was pregnant. It was like, oh no, we're going to put you in some shit situations.
Good for the baby.
It's like, okay. Fumes aren't. And he pranked his infants. So here's another aspect that I wanted to put in the cruelty, but also some people would probably be like, I would do that with my kid. And it's like, no, this keeps reappearing. Is that Anne wrote about how when Charles Jr. was like toddling and learning how to walk and everything, Charles would walk into the room and start pelting pillows at the toddling baby, knocking him down, and then the baby would get back up, and then he would pelt the pillows more until the baby gave up.
What, like resistance?
I don't.
Training?
But he would like pelt these pillows at his legs to knock his legs out from under him. A baby learning how to walk.
That's
and then she says even the baby was resigned to, he just sat down and then cried.
Yeah, you conditioned him to think, oh, getting up bad.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, well, I can't even practice this, so I'm not even going to fucking try. And then he was angry that the baby wasn't hitting certain milestones, and it's like, could your vibes be fucking the vibes?
Yeah. It couldn't possibly be you fucking it up.
Yeah. And then he went on and was unfaithful to his wife while touting America first and preserving the white race values.
Yeah, America first goes off and fucks only German people.
Literally. And he was an isolationist. But your dick isn't. Your dick isn't in isolation. It should be. You're married.
Lock him up.
And he tried an about-face turn later in his life by advocating for preserving wildlife and nature preservations while still supporting and contributing to eugenics societies. So it's like, okay, yes, somebody can be doing good things, but also I'm not going to automatically contribute them as a good person.
Well, and like, it's almost like he's saying, oh, well, yeah, I care about animals, just not people.
Exactly. I see certain people below animals.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa,
damn.
Hey, fuck you, brother. And essentially what I wanted to start this podcast as was for me to tell historical figures, fuck you, to their face on a big screen.
It's so fulfilling that we get to do this.
And so there wasn't a lot of historical analysis on this one. I just needed people to know that anytime that you hear Lindbergh, just know that he was a shitty human who did some cool things, but also did some heinous things at the same time.
There are two sides to every story.
This one, cubicle.
Yeah, there's a lot of sides.
Cubicular.
Yeah.
What? I don't know what that was.
I was just gonna let you live with that one.
So, any thoughts? So what?
So my thoughts, I looked mostly at like the true crime aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts are that after hearing this, I think that either he played a hand in it or he's just really happy that it played out.
Oh, also an aspect that I think I touched upon, but he, as I said before, he refused to like acknowledge that they had a first son.
Right.
And so they wouldn't talk about it in their house. Their other kids did not know about their older brother until it came out like at school or someone close to the family or a family friend or just somebody on the side of the road like Lindbergh. Oh, you're the ones whose son was
kidnapped.
Killed. And anytime that would happen, the kids would get really upset, and then Lindbergh would come home and like take them aside and tell them just like two sentences, essentially. He would say, yes, there was Charles Lindbergh III, and he was kidnapped, and the man who did it was tried and executed.
That's it.
And that's it.
Well, because that makes it very convenient for him, too. I mean, it makes me wonder how this Bruno guy got involved with him, if he was, they were in cahoots together with it. I mean, he was an immigrant who, had a hard time getting to the United States. He had tried multiple times to obtain citizenship.
Lindbergh had connections to Germans and everything, and he was a German immigrant. So might have met, like, oh, do you know somebody who just essentially fresh off the boat that I can
somebody
throw
fresh
under?
off the boat that we can throw under. Or even, what was this man already sick? Was he already going to pass?
Yeah.
And he just was, a good scapegoat. There's a lot of questions you have to ask.
Yeah. There's also an aspect that in one book that came up, and I was just like, ooh, but they put it in there specifically because of this relevance, is in the flights that Anne should have been on bed rest, he made a ladder to help her get in and out of the plane. So Charles Lindbergh knew how to build a rickety ladder, because you know that he didn't care about Anne's safety.
And
so
he
you
wouldn't
know
have made
that
it
that
well.
ladder was probably shoddy as fuck.
Yeah, he wouldn't have made it well because it's not his trade. But, Bruno was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Any ladder he would have had, which would have been multiple, if not one,
Yeah.
would have been decently made enough so you could get to the second floor of a house.
Yeah.
But
And I don't think that it was supposed to end in killing.
no.
I do think that the baby probably slipped from whoever was trying to get down that ladder when it broke.
Yeah.
Probably got jerked and fell from the ladder.
Exactly. I think that, the death was an
Unfortunate event.
And that the kidnapping, though, definitely seems to have been planned, because essentially he could have paid Bruno to just kidnap this kid. He was German. He had links with Germany.
Yeah.
He could have done that and just said, hey, I'll give you this amount of money if you just take him away. But then the accident happened. They probably had to scramble. And that would lead me to believe that, he would want to take the investigation over, because he needs that 24 hours to circle his way.
He needs to be the first to hear the information, so he knows how to counter the information.
Yeah.
That's what always makes me, like, side-eye it. Because it's like, he was getting information, so he could concoct his excuses or his plans or whatever.
So that's speculation, but what is historical truth is that, he was not a saint, and, he had there's two sides to every story. Their lives were far from perfect.
Yep. The press tried to make them seem like the picture-perfect American dream-like family, when in actuality, this goal pointing towards this American dream made everyone suffer who was not the patriarch of this family.
Yeah.
His stride towards perfection, towards being the perfect family, towards the masses, made it so his children were kind of indifferent towards him.
Yeah.
And his wife, I don't think that she'd ever admit it, but I know that she, from her writings and everything, at night, she probably harbored a lot of resentment towards him.
Yeah.
And also every woman he fucked probably harbored a lot of resentment towards him too.
Right, because he was absent. He literally was living for his own greed. They
were means to an end.
Yes.
What he wanted was, I want to make perfect white babies. And it's like,
so to do that, you need the perfect white lady.
And it's like, you already had 6 kids with your wife.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Because he had these children in the 50s and 60s. Yeah. So, and their youngest child was born in 45.
Yeah.
So it's like, you bastard.
Yeah.
So that is my information bile purge on Charles Lindbergh. I would love to do a more deep dive, thought out, like, information branch, information tree type of aspect, multi-part series, but I needed to get some of this information because I have just been harboring so much resentment towards this dead man.
I can see fucking why. Oh my gosh. Like,
yeah. And also, it's like,
it's not all men, but it's always a man.
And with that, thank you so much for tuning in to the Historians podcast. I hope that you stuck around. I hope that you formed an opinion. If your opinion is a little bit different, I'd love to hear about it. But also, I don't know if you can change my mind on the moral fallacies that are Charles Lindbergh, the third. No, not the third.
R.I.P. That poor child had to suffer.
That poor child. I just want to give that baby a hug and say,
it's not your fault your parents are shit.
It's not your fault. And it's also like, I have a lot of assessments towards Anne, but also I don't I kind of understand her at the same time. So I'm like, you know what, girl, you get a pass on some things, but not the eugenics stuff, okay?
Yeah.
Fuck you for that. But she did a lot of work towards the end of her life, but it didn't make up for some of the
Right.
support she gave towards the middle of her life. So with that, I will tell you that always remember what you do in this life has nothing compared to whether or not your children and your children's children want to ensure your legacy and your name lives on in a happy tone. Otherwise, if you're a shit human, your descendants will see you as a shit human. It will get out. The truth always comes out.
Truth always is there, baby.
So, I leave you with that this week on the Hystorians.